Hello, everyone. My name is Naheem Islam, and for this project, I visited a public art installation titled The Children of Gaza Memorial, which is currently outside Orlando City Hall. I was able to visit Orlando City Hall because I live in Kissimmee, Florida, and Orlando is very close to it. When I was thinking about where I should visit for this project, I looked around for places near me, and when I understood exactly what this place was, I knew immediately that I had to choose this for my project. This memorial was organized by a local coalition called Orlando for Peace shortly after reports of escalating violence in Gaza. The installation consisted of rows of children's shoes, flowers, candles, and handwritten posters, each representing the life of a Palestinian child lost in the conflict. What makes this work of art especially powerful is its timing and setting. Unlike traditional, permanent memorials built years after a tragedy, this one emerged in real time, as the violence was still ongoing. Because of its recency and political controversy, it wasn't placed in a museum or formal gallery. Instead, it occupied the steps of City Hall, turning a government building into a space of public mourning and moral confrontation. This memorial relates deeply to themes of death, loss, and suffering, as it forces viewers to confront the human cost of war through simple, personal symbols, shoes that once belonged to children, but it also addresses the broader concept of evil, showing how ordinary citizens respond to violence with empathy and remembrance rather than hatred or indifference. Through this presentation, I'll be analyzing the Children of Gaza Memorial using Rookmaaker's Fourfold Criterion, explaining how its form, content, communication, and function each work together to express a powerful vision of grief, hope, and moral responsibility. Now, before we analyze the Children of God's Memorial, we must see the lens through which we are analyzing it, which is Rookmaker's fourfold criterion. Rookmaker was a Christian art historian who believed that art is never neutral. Every work of art reflects how the artist sees the world, their beliefs about truth, beauty, and humanity. To help us understand art more deeply, Rookmaker proposed four areas we should always consider: form, content, communication, and function. So, form and content we will be analyzing directly. Communication will be how it experienced through me as the viewer, and function will be how effective the artist portrays what he is portraying. The first part of Rookmaker's fourfold criterion is form, which looks at how the artwork is made, its material, structure, and overall aesthetic. In the Children of Gaza Memorial, the form is deliberately simple and unrefined. It's made up of rows of children's shoes, flowers, candles, and handwritten posters, all arranged on the steps of Orlando City Hall. There are no permanent sculptures or polished installations, just everyday objects placed by community members in an act of collective mourning. Unlike traditional memorials, which are formally designed and constructed over time, this one was rudimentarily assembled because of its recency and controversy. The conflict it responds to is ongoing, and its location outside a government building makes it both publicly and politically charged. Aesthetically, the repetition of small shoes creates rhythm and visual unity, while the empty space between them symbolizes absence and loss. The mix of red and white flowers contrasts innocence with bloodshed, and the soft glow of candles adds warmth amid grief. Through this raw and temporary form, the memorials transform simple materials into a powerful visual lament, forcing passerby to confront the human cost of war right in a civic space. Now, the second part of Rookmaker's fourfold criterion is content, which focuses on what the artwork expresses, the messages, ideas, and worldview behind it. In the Children of God's Memorial, the central message is one of mourning and moral witness. The memorial honors the innocent children killed in Gaza, representing both their absence and the pain of those left behind. At its core, the piece reflects a worldview that values every human life, regardless of nationality, religion, or politics. It asserts that suffering of children anywhere should never be normalized or ignored. The use of ordinary objects like shoes and toys reminds viewers that these were real children, with lives and dreams abruptly cut short. This transforms the memorial from a political protest into a universal lament for innocence lost. It also calls for empathy and justice, challenging viewers to look beyond the conflict itself. and see the shared humanity that unites both victims and observers. Ultimately, content reveals a worldview rooted in compassion, one that sees remembrance not as passive grief, but as an active form of resistance against the devaluation of human life. When evaluating the Children of Gaza Memorial through Rookmaker's framework, one of the most important striking aspects is the integrity and sincerity of those who created it. This falls under the meaning portion of Rookmaker's Fourfold Criterion. This memorial was not designed by a professional artist or funded by an institution. It emerged organically, built by volunteers and grieving community members who felt compelled to give form to their sorrow. That spontaneity, using children's shoes, flowers, candles, and handwritten signs, reveals a purity of intention rarely seen in public art. There is no pursuit of profit, prestige, or permanence. Instead, it is an honest outpouring of compassion. According to Rookmaker, sincere art reflects the artist's authentic worldview. It doesn't hide behind aesthetic polish or manipulation. The memorial embodies this ideal completely. Its roughness and temporary nature become part of its message, that real grief is never clean or composed. The artists and organizers allowed the work to remain emotionally raw, making it truthful rather than performative. What also stands out is the moral courage behind the decision to display it on the steps of Orlando City Hall, a government building that represents civic authority. The artists could have easily gotten in trouble, but instead, in doing so, the organizers transformed the political space into a sacred one. They risked backlash, censorship, and accusations of bias and anti-Semitism by confronting the public with a politically sensitive tragedy. Yet that willingness to face criticism underscores their sincerity. It shows that their motive was not to divide, but to bear witness to human suffering. In Rookmaker's terms, the integrity of the artist is evident in how the memorial unites form and faithfulness. The humble materials and heartfelt intent align perfectly with its purpose. It is not art for art's sake. It is art for truth's sake. The creator's refusal to sanitize the reality of loss demonstrates deep moral conviction that public grief deserves public visibility, even when it makes society uncomfortable. Ultimately, the integrity of the Children of Gaza Memorial lies in its honest humanity, an act of remembrance created not to impress, but to awaken conscience. Now for the last, now for the last form of Rookmaker's fourfold criterion, it is analyzed through me as the viewer who experienced the Children of Gaza Memorial. Now, standing before this memorial was a profoundly humbling experience. In that moment, I realized how easy it is to distance ourselves from war and tragedy, to see suffering as statistics, headlines that pass by on a screen. But seeing rows of tiny shoes, each one symbolizing a child's life, stripped away that distance completely. The loss became heartbreakingly personal. I discovered that art has the power to do what numbers cannot. It can restore empathy. It gives emotion a physical form. This memorial reminded me that mourning is not a passive act or a sign of weakness, it's a moral act, a way of reaffirming our shared humanity in the face of violence and indifference. On a personal level, it also made me more aware of my own responsibility as a viewer. Me being a Bengali Muslim, I was very deeply touched by this memorial. It challenged me to ask myself, how do I respond to injustice? Do I stay silent, or do I use my voice to advocate for compassion and peace? The memorial doesn't allow us to look away. It calls us to participate in the work of empathy. Ultimately, this experience taught me that memorials like this are not only about remembering the dead, they're about remembering who we are. They ask us what kind of world we want to build, one that looks away from suffering, or one that insists on seeing, feeling, and caring. And that, I think, is the deepest purpose of art like this, to awaken conscience and to remind us of our shared humanity. In conclusion, the memorial stands as a powerful example of how art can confront tragedy with truth and compassion. Through Rookmaker's fourfold criterion, we can see how every aspect of this memorial works together to communicate a deeper moral vision. Its form is humble and raw, made from everyday objects like shoes, flowers, and candles. Yet that simplicity gives it an authenticity that polished monuments often lack. Its content expresses both grief and protest, reflecting a worldview that insists every child's life holds sacred value. The communication of the memorial is deeply emotional. It reaches viewers not through spectacle, but through vulnerability, forcing us to feel empathy, sorrow, and moral discomfort. By being placed publicly on the steps of City Hall, it transforms an ordinary civic space into a space of collective mourning and moral reflection. Finally, its function goes beyond remembrance. It serves as a call to conscience, urging us to respond to suffering with humanity instead of indifference. In that sense, it embodies exactly what Rookmaker believed art should do: reveal truth, awaken moral awareness, and remind us of our shared responsibility in the face of evil. Ultimately, the Children of Gaza Memorial shows that art does not need permanence or perfection to be meaningful. What matters most is sincerity, compassion, and the courage to make grief visible. It teaches us that beauty can emerge even from pain, and that to remember is in itself a moral act. Thank you.